Okay, now we've had an introduction to the environment. What I'm going to do now is look at creating a basic sketch. Okay, so to do that, I'm going to go to the Sketch tab along that top banner. Now in this, we've got this sketch icon on the left-hand side, and if we click on that, it will open up basically the sketch menu. But the first thing it asks us to do, you see this little box, little red cross, little arrow, it's saying select a plane which you want to sketch. Remember, we're in 3D space, so we can't just kind of start randomly sketching. It needs us, it's wanting a kind of a piece of paper that we're going to sketch onto. So I'm going to click one of my planes, I'm going to click this top plane to start my sketch. And you see it orientates the model in this, so it orientates the view so that we can look down on that top plane. Now to move around in Solidworks, to rotate the model, we can click and hold on our scroll wheel. And if we click and hold on the scroll wheel, we can move the view around so we can see it from different angles. Sketches are 2D, so we don't really need to do that for this one. And what I can do is I can just drop down on this one here, and if I click to normal to, that will align my view to the sketch that I'm working on now. So if I click that, it will reset that to the top view. Okay, so in the sketch menu, on this ribbon at the top, we've got squares, we've got circles, we've got polygons, we've got a number of different tools and spline tools as well. So let's just create a basic rectangle to start with. So I'm going to click on the rectangle. And I've got a few options. So if I just click on that rectangle and drag out and create that rectangle, you'll notice that I'm just dragging it from the corner. So from that left top corner down to the bottom there. That's absolutely fine. I'm happy with that. But there is another thing. You see these options here. We don't have to drag it from that left top corner. If I just Control Z, undo on that one, and click back on that rectangle, you see I could go rectangle type from the center. So for example, if I click that center one, I can then go to the center of my model, down here, click out, and you see we are creating our rectangle from the center. It's always good practice, whenever you're sketching, whenever you're starting a model, to start on the origin. The origin is your center point, is your 0, 0, 0, and it just makes modeling and lining things up later on a lot easier. Now you'll see there's a little X and Y telling us its dimensions. We're working in millimeters, so forget centimeters, inches, we're going to work in millimeters. So we can see there, we can kind of line up to roughly, so say I want to be about 100 square, I can roughly line that up to about 100 square. Not that accurate though, is it? But let's just line it up roughly, and I'll explain later how we can change that. Okay, so drag it out, click to finish, and you can see we've got some parameters down here telling us exactly where this rectangle is relative to our 3D space. Okay, so once we're happy, we click this little tick next to the rectangle to close that dialog box. Once we close that dialog box, that rectangle is now within our sketch window. Okay, but as I said, we haven't really set any dimensions. We set roughly 100 by 100. So what we want to do is this little smart dimension tool just next to the sketching tools, click on that, click on one of the edges that we want, so left click on that edge, drag out that dimension where we want it, and left click again to submit it, and it gives us an option to modify it. So you see this is 102, approximately 100, let's type in 100, enter, and let's do exactly the same on the top. So the top one, click, drag out, 100, enter. Cool, I've now created a square, a cube, that is 100 by 100. And again, as always, click that little green tick to close that dialog box. Now, when we're going to extrude things, and extrude basically means where we take this 2D shape and turn it into 3D. To do that, we need to have a contained volume, okay, so we can't have gaps in it. I'm just going to use this Trim Entities tool. For example, I cannot finish my sketch like this. You see I've got 1, 2, 3 sides, but this 4th side is now missing. That will create an error when I try and extrude it. So what I'm going to do, just Control Z, undo, Put that back in, and let's move on to the next step. Let's see how we can actually extrude that. Okay, so to exit, once we're happy, to exit the sketch, on the right hand side here, there's this little exit arrow. Click on the exit arrow, and that takes us back into our modelling window. And you can see, clicking and holding on that middle mouse button, I can rotate the view, and you'll see on my features tree on the left hand side, I've got my planes, they're there, and I've got my origin, that's the centre point, that's our 0, 0, 0, and I now have sketch 1, which is that rectangle, or so that cube that I just created. That's the square. Okay? So, check out the next video on how to extrude.